Squid Game Season 2. Is it good or is it bad? Squid Game's wild success is tied to one of modern society's biggest and most troubling trends. It's why it's compelling. It's why people love it.
Games were even more intense than some of the games in Season 1.
Fantastic season, with really interesting and sometimes over-the-top annoying characters.
So today we're going to be breaking down why it's so successful and whether or not in the end it truly delivers. What makes Squid Game so irresistible is its use of some really basic elements in a really complex scheme. I'm talking about things like shapes, as simple as a square, a triangle, and a circle. Universal in one sense, but complex in how they're related to the characters and the iconography within the world they've created. The bright colors, the reds, the greens, the blues, the hues that are primary colors used to connote specific hierarchical structures within this dystopian society. These are things that are arranged in such a way to give new meaning, and even though there's a language barrier for so many viewers, these elements make it easy to relate to. And let's not forget, most important of all, those classic children's games that so many of us recognize, or at least know the rules of almost instantly right off the bat.
게임을 제가 골랐던 이유는 가장 단순하고 어디서든 할 수 있고 많은 것이 필요 없는 게임이었고요.
All these basic elements put together in a pot and simmered to perfection with so much tension. But what's the secret ingredient to Squid Game? Because you know I love those, and I'm always looking for that thing that indicates why something goes above and beyond the regular fare we're used to. And Squid Game certainly has one. And in my opinion, it's actually diversity. Diversity has a lot of meaning, but one of the meanings it has is newness or freshness. So often, the industry, every industry, chases the familiar, the successful, the big names you know, the big themes or the big IPs we're familiar with. But that can so easily become stale. Sometimes the daring task of finding something no one's familiar with from someone no one knows that well is where you're truly going to connect with audiences in a way that these other things simply can't anymore. That's exactly what Squid Game did. That blew literally everyone away. Now, Squid Game does have, in its diverse perspective, a ton of the previously mentioned universal elements. For example, it takes place in a society that is deeply into late-stage capitalism. Sound familiar? Things are falling apart. Most people are struggling to make ends meet or figure out what comes next. The main character in Squid Game is saddled with debt, and these characters are desperate to find their way out of financial holes, and the only thing available to them is a hyper-competitive nightmare vision of capitalism and competitive society. Well, Squid Game is that rat race taken to an all-new level. This perspective, this fresh, new, diverse perspective on something familiar and universal is the secret sauce that makes that secret ingredient come to life in Squid Game.
Did you know? The idea for Squid Game was deeply personal for director Hwang Dong-yak. Back in 2008, while struggling with debt and barely making ends meet, Hwang came up with the story as a reflection of his own life and the growing economic inequality he saw around him. Facing continuous rejections from studios over a decade, Hwang's situation became so dire that he had to sell his laptop for $675 to cover living expenses. But in 2019, Netflix called changing his life forever.
Here comes Reed Hastings, CEO of Netflix, with a bold new vision that Netflix needed to go overseas. It needed to mine those creative corners around the globe for things that might have international appeal. And this bold attitude led to a hit that had echoes across the world.
He's giving up the prize money right here at the very edge of victory.
So in the end, does Squid Game work? Squid Game, unfortunately, is weighed down by a couple of big weaknesses, partly because its strengths set the bar so high. Some examples are a really tough landing that it didn't quite stick in Season 1. A knife fight, after all that, just didn't live up to expectations or the hype that the series had built. A Season 2 that, quite frankly, didn't need to happen. The creator himself even said he originally planned it as a feature, they expanded it into a series, but there wasn't any compelling reason to do another season. But ultimately, the biggest weakness is an inability to drive audiences to a meaningful conclusion when those bowling pins of power were set up so well, with all these amazing ideas and inner lookings at how we work today or don't work or what we're facing. Squid Game just did not come up with a cohesive thesis statement about any of that stuff. Now, that's not a crime unto itself, but it's a little bit of a challenging point when all of that beautiful buffet of meaning is left sitting on the table to go bad.
456번. 영웅놀이는 재밌었나?
Ultimately, I think Squid Game is bad. I think it's excellent filmmaking. A lot of great technique across the board. I've highlighted many of the elements that are most powerful. But in the end, it's more sizzle and less steak. The substance that could have come from real resolution on that thesis statement, on that secret ingredient about major societal issues that everybody has, just falls flat. And that's the difference between something that's popular when it's on, because everyone wants to watch it and see what happens next, and something that's evergreen, that stays with us forever. Let's talk about pairings. You loved Squid Game, and you want something more out there that's just like it. Well, the number one's gotta be Battle Royale. But if you've already seen that, I would also suggest Hunger Games and maybe the Purge series. All of those capture a lot of the same ideas, the same essence, some of the same beats. But truly, Battle Royale is the DNA that makes Squid Game so magical in terms of its early episodes. Thanks for watching. I'm George Edelman, and this is MovieWeb Plus, and we will have so many more episodes for you on shows and movies you've got to see, why they're great, why maybe they don't work, what they missed, and what their secret ingredient is. Please be sure to check out all our other videos. And let us know, are there other shows that you thought were really good but failed to stick the landing? I can think of one called Lost, but there's so many others where they promised a lot, they skirted with greatness, and they just came up a little short. Or do you think Squid Game is the opposite and it actually truly delivered and I'm completely wrong? I'd love to hear you push back. Thanks so much for watching.